I'll never forget that day for the rest of my life. It was one of the happiest days of my life, but I didn't know what would be coming with the birth of my son, Levi. I remember delivering him, and the doctor put him on my chest, and I was holding his back with my hand, and I felt something, and I was like, "What's that?" And the doctor was like, "What's what?" And I moved my hand and exposed what we later found out was a meningocele. Levi was born with spina bifida. From the second the doctor saw the meningocele, our room was a crazy frenzy. There were doctors in and out, specialists trying to figure out what to do. He was in an MRI tube within 20 minutes of being born, and that confirmed that he had a meningocele and a tethered cord. The neurosurgeon said that we would have to have surgery soon to repair all of that. At 8 days old, he had that spine surgery, and everything went awesome. It seemed like everything was going well, and we just didn't know what spina bifida really meant and what we would need to be watching for the next months and years to come. When Levi was 5 months old, we were frantic because Levi would be inconsolable for hours on end during the day, and we could not figure out what was going wrong. I took him to the emergency room during one of these episodes, and after being there for like an hour and a half, they sent me home with a pamphlet on colic. I was so upset. I knew something was wrong with my son. So the next day I drove him down to the neurosurgeon's office, and I said, "We're gonna sit here and wait for you until you can see him." After he was finally able to get him in, it was only a couple of minutes before he sent us rushing out the door to the urologist, and he happened to be one of the top urologists in the entire state. He was amazing. We did some tests right away, and those confirmed that Levi had a neurogenic bladder and a neurogenic bowel, and he would be having the Mitrofanoff surgery done, emergency surgery, the very next day. Levi was 6 months old at that time, which was one of the youngest cases ever to receive a Mitrofanoff surgery. The next 3 years were really hard. The stoma wouldn't stay open. He had a lot of infections, a lot of complications. We had to revise the stoma 3 times in that time. And at the age of 3, we decided to give his poor little body a break, and we decided to shut down the Mitrofanoff and open what's called a vesicostomy. Since the vesicostomy isn't a long-term solution, we knew we had to do the Mitrofanoff over again. So January of 2016, he had the Mitrofanoff and the ACE redone. The next 6 months proved to be the worst of his life. He had so many complications. The Foley catheter caused so much bladder spasms as the stoma was healing, and he had to have 7 surgeries in 6 months. It was definitely the worst time of his life. Watching a 4-year-old go through that kind of pain doesn't seem fair. The only solution that he had was the Foley catheter, and having a balloon in his bladder caused the kind of bladder spasms that they equated to a woman in labor. And that's something no 4-year-old should ever have to go through. I told his doctors that we needed a couple months break, and if that was a possibility, we were going to take it. And they said yes, so we did. For 2 months, my little boy got to run around and play like a 4-year-old, which was awesome to watch and be around. But I knew that a revision had to happen again. We needed access to that bladder, and that stoma had to be open. In that 2 months, I met with his urologist, and we were trying to rack our brains, trying to think of anything we could come up with to avoid that surgery, and we knew it wasn't possible. We knew we had to revise the stoma and place another Foley catheter and watch him suffer, and I just didn't want to do it. Even his urologist was in tears because we felt so helpless at this point. Why my little boy was dealing with the kind of bladder spasms he was just didn't feel fair. It didn't seem right. I remember him looking at me as he was leaving the room of that appointment, and he was like, "Sarah, what we have for Levi doesn't exist. We have the Foley catheter to keep that stoma open while it heals and to continue to drain him as it heals." And he jokingly said, I guess we're gonna have to invent something. I remember hearing him say that, and a light bulb went off. I was like, okay, guess I'm gonna invent something. Because that's what mamas do. Mamas do whatever it takes. I didn't want to watch my son in pain anymore. And if that's what it was gonna take to not have to watch him in pain anymore, I was gonna invent something. Over the next couple of months, I figured something out, and I remember making an appointment with our urologist, and I was like, I just want to show you what I've come up with and see if you think it's an option, because I think it's working. But I found a friend who had connections with a 3D printer. I printed a prototype and took it into my urologist, and I showed it to him, and it worked. And my urologist was freaking out. He was very excited. He was like, how in the world does this thing not exist yet? Let's use this. Back in January, when he had the first surgery, it took 2.5 weeks because of that Foley catheter being placed and the bladder spasms that would happen. But with my device that was placed on August 22nd, he healed so fast. We were only in the hospital one night, and he was able to do all of his recovery from home, which he didn't deal with the kind of bladder spasms that he was. I was so excited. The whole reason I wanted to invent something was to help my son. I had no idea what it would turn out to be. I didn't know if it would actually even work, but it did. And I'm excited that it worked for my son. But now more than ever, I'm excited about helping other people, about other kids or other adults that struggle with a Foley catheter while a stoma is healing. My original goal was to help my son. I didn't want to see him in pain anymore, and I did what any mama would do. I invented something, I thought of something, I came up with something that would help relieve that pain. And now my goal is different. I know that there's so many people that struggle with pain and discomfort from Foley catheters, and what I created was a little device that might bring pain relief and bring hope.